Hello, everyone. It is Tuesday. So, this is the HomeGirl Tuesdays at 10, bringing you another home buyer tip, another piece of information that you can digest to help you along your home buying journey. So, how y'all feeling today? I know we have Christmas next week. So, some people's minds are like not thinking about Christmas. But I remember when I purchased my first home, I actually closed like November 17th or November the 11th. But at any rate, my new home ended up being my Christmas gift to myself and to my children. So don't sleep on home ownership for Christmas, okay? That's the biggest gift that you can give yourself is preparation. The biggest gift you can give yourself is insight and knowledge. The biggest gift that you can give yourself is actually having the mindset, tuning in to this HomeGirl Tuesdays at 10 segments, to just educate yourself to become a better buyer, a more informed buyer, a more educated buyer, so that you can have a wonderful home buying experience. So really quick today, I just want to discuss with you all the actual cost that go into buying a home. Not like home maintenance, but actually what do you need to be prepared for so that financially, so that when you're going into buying a home, you're ready to go. And I'm also going to drop something probably later on today or tomorrow that's going to be like a buyer's readiness assessment that's going to help you assess your financial situation. Again, I'm not a lender, but I've just been in this industry long enough. I can kind of tell you where you need to go and where you need to be. Okay. So with that, when it comes to buying a home, people always talk about your down payment and your closing costs, but there are other costs involved. Whenever you're buying a home, you want to make sure that you have enough cash or liquid money right off the gate that's accessible to you right the day that you write an offer. You want to make sure that you have enough money for earnest money deposit. Now, I'm reading these articles. I just read an article this morning from Bank of America. I read something last week from Realtor.com that talks about the housing market, their predictions for the housing market next year. One article said that they're going to see more buyers, more sellers entering into the market. And another thing that Bank of America said was that the home prices are going to slowly appreciate. So the home prices are going to slowly increase. And what that means is that you have a less chance of being priced out. So now if the home prices are not increasing, right, then you're most likely going to find competition because the home prices are not going to become like too unaffordable. Now, depending on where you are, we talked about that last week, you may kind of see higher home prices, but overall they're going to be slow to increase, which means that's more favorable to buyers who have been sitting on the back fence knowing what to do. So I said all that to say earnest money, earnest money, earnest money. Your earnest money deposit, or EMD, is basically a good faith deposit to say, hey, I like your house this much. I'm going to give you this amount of money in order to take your house off the market for me. This is my good faith deposit that I'm going to move through with purchasing your home. Because you have to remember, sellers are taking their home off of the market for your offer. So you want to give them something that they can feel. You want to give them something that's going to entice them enough to be like, oh, okay, I see you. Now, depending on what the market looks like and depending on what's going on with the house, I always advise a 1% earnest money deposit. So what does that mean? If you are putting an offer in on a $200,000 home, I advise you to at least do $1,500 to $2,000 for your earnest money deposit. I do. Why? Because it's enticing to the sellers, and that is just another term in the contract. We'll talk about contracts later, but today we're just focusing on this earnest money deposit. So when you have a higher earnest money deposit, that's more attractive to the sellers whenever you're writing your offer, and that's something that you want to be prepared for. I've actually had to go in as a listing agent and ask for more earnest money based on the other terms. So you want to kind of start how you want to finish. Now, the good thing though is you get your earnest money back as a credit at the end of the transaction. So no, you're not walking away with that $1,500 to $2,000. You're not getting a check for it, but with your overall cash to close, the overall amount that you have to bring to closing after you've closed at the closing table, that $1,500 to $2,000 is actually being taken away from that total amount. So you do get it back. Certain situations you don't, like if you decide like I don't even want this house anymore and you just walk away, you're not getting the earnest money back. So just make sure that your head is in the right space for this, okay? Again, earnest money deposit. Some states, like North Carolina, you actually have to do a due diligence fee. So with that due diligence fee, that's a check or money order or however you decide to pay it, that goes directly to the sellers. And you don't get that back unless the seller breaches contract. But you do get it back as a credit. So coupled with your earnest money deposit and your due diligence, that is what you get back at closing. Again, it's not a check that you're going to get in your pocket, but it is a credit towards your overall cash to close amount. So make sure that you're doing the right thing, your head is in the right space. Now, I don't want to get into the weeds of negotiations and repairs and the reasons why you could not get your earnest money back. If that's something that you want me to actually expound upon, let me know and I'll do that. But for the sake of this video and just covering the cost to actually be under contract, I'm just going to keep it simple, okay? So you have your earnest money deposit. Some states you have your due diligence. So for a $200,000 house, that may actually look like $2,000. That may actually look like $2,500 depending on where you are and what the market looks like. You don't want to write an offer on a house that's $300,000 and then coming in there with $500 for either one of those numbers. The sellers, that's not going to be attractive to the sellers, but you have to keep in mind that you will get this money back at the closing table as a credit to your overall cash to close. Next, you have to be prepared to pay for your inspection. Now, if you're just an investor or you don't care about what you're getting into, then you may not want to. But I advise all of my buyers to move forward with a home inspection. And those costs depending on the square footage of the home. Some inspectors are like 2,000 square feet or less. Some are 1,900 square feet or less. And then the price goes up because they have more space to inspect, right? So that also varies. So the average inspection cost, we'll say, is $400. Boom. Okay. Average inspection. Now, depending on your loan type and also depending on how far you want to go with the inspections, you may want to do a radon test. And that actually tests the gas in the home, like underneath the ground that may be seeping through, which is a harmful chemical. So people want to have radon tests inspected too. Those are 100, 125, somewhere along in there, depending on which company that you use. You may need to have a termite inspection. That's an additional 100 to 125 as well. So right now, we're going to just have all costs considered so far. We have our earnest money and our due diligence. We're going to say that's $2,000 to $2,500. Scenario based on a $200,000 home. I'm being very, very general. Just want to give you an idea of how you can plug and play with these numbers. And again, I will be releasing something that can help you actually put these numbers into your own practical life and like you could do it for what your situation is. But I digress. Let me back up and finish what I started. So for earnest money and due diligence on a $200,000 home, depending on your market, depending on what's going on, you may be looking at $2,500 to $3,000. We're going to go on the high end of $3,000. Okay. Again, we want to have some skin in the game. We want to show these sellers that we're motivated because our other terms might not be as much. So we want to make sure that we're showing up to win. I always tell my buyers, play to win. Play to win. So we're at $3,000. Okay. Y'all take notes. Take notes. We're at $3,000. Then you also have your inspection. Now we're at $3,400. Now we actually have your radon test if you want it and your termite inspection. Now we're looking at $3,650. We're at $3,650 with those 3 inspections, okay, and your earnest money / due diligence, again, depending on where you are. Then you also have to pay for the appraisal, and you can't get out of a deal without having an appraisal. Most lenders are going to make you have that unless you're doing cash, and then those cases you still may want to have an appraisal, but I don't know too many people that's paying $200,000 cash for a home. So you getting an appraisal because you need a loan. So that appraisal can be $600. That's something that's ordered by the lender. So if we go back and add those costs, we were already at $3,650. Bring in another $600. You're right around $4,000 for your all-in cost for a $200,000 home. Again, depending on where you are. So I'm just giving numbers on a high note, okay? I just want to give you the high number. I always estimate high, and if it comes back low, then awesome. But I just want to give you a high level perspective of what your pre-closing costs are, what your actual costs that you have to pay for before you even close on the deal. Okay, so again, if you want me to go into closing costs and all of those things, I can do another video about that because I do want to educate you. But first and foremost, I want to let you know what you're going to need to have on hand, even entering into a contract. So that's, again, being financially ready, being financially prepared, and being ready to actually win the contract over, being able to write an offer that they can't refuse. That's what I always tell my buyers. We got to play to win and give them an offer they can't refuse. And so sometimes having that higher earnest money and that higher due diligence is an offer they can't refuse, again, because it is putting skin in the game for you. You're saying, hey, I like your house this much, seller, that I'm going to put this much money on the line in order to secure this deal, in order to secure this home. Okay, so again, with earnest money due diligence for a $200,000 home, kind of depending on where you are, like I just said, they're kind of expecting things to rev up, so you want to be prepared to play to win. So you're looking at maybe $2,500 to $3,000. Again, that could be less. I wouldn't go any higher than that. It can be less than that depending on what's going on with the house. But I'm just here to give you the overall cost of kind of where you want to be. So $3,000 depending on the market, the house, the this, the that, the competition. But I'm just giving you a high level view. So we're at $3,000. Your radon test, your home inspection, and your termite report. Now we're looking at what, $375 for all of those. So now we're at I would say $3,400 for that. And then on top of that, your appraisal, which is another estimated $600. I think I just said that wrong. Let me back up. $3,000 for your earnest money deposit and your due diligence. And then we'll say $300. No, I said $400 for your inspection. That's $3,400. I'm trying to do this in my head. I should have wrote this down. So $3,400 for your inspection and your earnest money deposit and your due diligence. So we're at $3,400. Then you have your radon and your termite if you decide to do those. Some loans require those. So now we're at $3,650, and then you add on your appraisal, which is an estimated around $600. So now you're a shot a little bit at over $4,000 upfront. Those are your upfront costs. Again, they could vary depending on lender, depending on house, depending on competition. You may even be able to go in at $1,500. I don't know, but some states don't have due diligence. Okay, so I'm back. I had some issues with my phone, but hey, I'm here. So just to recap, again, those numbers that I gave earlier, they are not like hard stuck numbers. They are not static numbers. They are very fluid. They can change based on your situation. I will be dropping a buyer's readiness assessment, so stay on the lookout for that so that you can be prepared for next year. If home ownership is your goal, and I pray that it is, you want to make sure that you're prepared. You want to make sure that you can pay to play, you play to win, and you're able to give the sellers an offer they cannot refuse. Okay, so this has been the Homegirl Tuesdays at 10, checking in about your upfront cost of buying a home. I also have a link below in the comments that you could actually check your credit score for $1. So you want to do that. The more you know, the more you know, the better off you'll be prepared to make the move towards home ownership. Okay, so y'all have a wonderful day, and I'll see y'all next week.